say that this is more like circa 1970 than maybe present day. That's when most of our stuff here first came into the building. And you'll see that I have made some major innovations. The first one is there's now a roof over our heads, so we're out of the elements. And because we're post-industrial revolution, we have planes, trains, automobiles, electricity, and I have this big machine beside me. Does anyone know what this machine is called? I'll give you a hint. It's the evaporator. And why is it called an evaporator? That's right, because its main job is to evaporate. Although I will say there's not much steam out here right now. So now the evaporator needs heat just like the fires. And instead of my fires being open flame and underneath some cauldrons, it's in this big firebox. It's underneath the machine here. And you can probably see the glow of my fire. I'm just about to add a little more wood so we can get some more steam. Because we're relying on science in the modern era rather than our auntie or maybe an elder to tell us when things are ready, we're going to use the scientific method. So I have a thermometer right here. And I know that when my sap has boiled up to 104 degrees, that it is mostly sugar. And does anyone know the boiling point of water? 100 degrees. So if it gets to 100 degrees, it will turn into steam. When it stops being water and starts being mostly sugar, the boiling point will go up. So when our sap gets to 104 degrees, we know it is 66.5% sugar and therefore maple syrup. So you can see in my big evaporator, I have increased surface area, so it makes it so that I can get more steam being produced, and I can reduce the amount of time it takes. See, it still mostly looks like water here. Nice and clear. And does anyone want to guess how much time I'm now saving? How long it might take me to turn my maple sap into maple syrup? You want to guess? Pardon me?
24 hours.
Oh, 24 hours is what they managed to do over next door. I'm much faster than that. Oh, eight's a good guess. So I can actually get my maple syrup in as little as 4 hours. So 4 hours if it's early season, very sweet sap. Have they told you already that at the beginning of the season there's lots of sugar in the sap and at the end of the season there's a little less? So the less sap there, or the less sugar there is in the sap, the longer it takes for me to boil it because there's more sap and I have to boil it down more. So it could take as much as 6 hours, but if I've got a good raging fire, it should take about 5 hours to get from being in here all the way to over here. And you'll notice that there are 2 compartments. So I put my sap in the first compartment, I fill this up all the way and I get it to a nice rolling simmer. And once it's going, if it's evaporated enough, everything I put in here should now fit into my smaller finishing compartment. Once it's in here, I finish it off. I bring it all the way up to 104 degrees, and you can see it's now quite dark and starting to look like maple syrup. And if I check my temperature here, we're at about 95. So I need to get it a little hotter. I can also, did anyone notice what it smells like in here? So I'm going to wave some steam at you. And you can see it doesn't smell smoky. Now it's starting to smell, it smells like maple syrup. When I go home at the end of the day, I will in fact smell quite sweet because all the steam in here has sugar in it too. Once I've got it all the way through my evaporator, I'm then going to open up my valve here and I'm be ready to bottle it. So I will run it through. I'm a small producer, so I use these very technical things, my colander and my piece of felt, and that's how I'm going to filter my sap. There's all sorts of components that build up inside the sap through the cooking process. It's nothing dangerous, it just causes a little bit of grit. Calcium, other components of what makes up sap in trees, and so I want to filter some of that out. Then I put it in my bottle, and the next step would be to send it to grating. When we're grating maple syrup, it all has 66.5% sugar. It's all 100% maple syrup, but there are different colors depending on when the sap was harvested. Most of the sap that we see is in the middle. It's either because they've used all the sap from the entire season to make their maple syrup, so it averages out to about 5% sugar in the sap, so it takes about 6 hours to cook, and you get this sort of middle amber color. If it's late in the season and there's not as much sugar, it might take up to 6 hours. I might need a little bit more sap to get all the way to my 66.5%, and it will have to cook longer, and it will be much darker. And similarly, at the beginning of the season, when there's lots of sugar in the sap, it will take less cook time, and it will be a much lighter color. The longer you cook it, the darker it gets, and the more maple or tree flavor you will get in your maple syrup. Once it's grated, it goes to the store and then everyone can purchase it. Maple syrup is such an important part of the Canadian economy that we actually have a maple syrup reserve here in Canada. Often an air hangar somewhere. Under lock and key is a maple syrup vault where they're storing thousands of gallons of maple syrup worth millions of dollars. And I don't know if anyone's seen the Netflix documentary or docudrama, but there was actually a maple syrup heist several years ago, and they stole millions of dollars of maple syrup by secretly funneling off the maple syrup and filling up containers and carting it away, and they refilled those canisters with water. And it wasn't until someone totally by accident discovered one of those water-filled barrels that they realized there'd been a maple syrup theft. And here at Courtright, we like to talk about the time we had our own maple syrup theft. Some bandits broke in. Here, because we're a demonstration site, there isn't someone in the building all the time, and we let our fires go out and we cover up our evaporators. We put the lids on and we head home. And there's a little vent up there. It gets so steamy in here that we like to open up that window. Well, someone forgot to close that window one day, and so our bandits, wearing their masks, broke in, climbed down, and they tried to steal our maple syrup. But it wasn't human bandits. It was a group of raccoons. And although we had lids on, they used their tricky little hands to open up our valve here, and they dumped all of the maple syrup we had made. It overflowed the bucket, it overflowed the sink, it spread all over the floor. And the next day there was a very sticky mess, and every surface in here was covered with tiny, sticky handprints. It was a big cleanup job, but the raccoons got to have a very nice maple syrup party. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. Well, you can head outside and return back the way you came, or you can take the return trail up the hill. There's some ice at the top, so